Hi everybody, thanks for checking out John Mead Web Dev on YouTube, and make sure that you click the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my videos. I'm going to be talking a little bit about navigation. Navigation is an interesting thing to work on because you have kind of this preset expectation, or this set of expectations that a user brings into the navigation experience. And that's okay, but you don't really want to mess with it. So the question is, how can you bring a creativity to that preset thought on how a navigation should work or how it's expected to work? So the navigation that I was working on yesterday is a navigation that is based on the window, and it occupies space over here on the left side. You could move it to the right if you wanted to. It just depends on which side you want your nav burger to be on. But the basis of it is a burger right over here. And then when you click on it, you kind of see like a fourth of a disc. And the disc spins and then rises up. So you've got this shadow that comes out. Not very obtrusive, pretty simple, yet it adds some motion to the page. And it doesn't, at least I don't think, it doesn't break expectations for how a navigation should work. So I wanted to go ahead and show you how I did that, and then, hopefully that's something that helps you or gives you some inspiration for some original navigations of your own. So let's go ahead and start working on this. For the actual navigation, I'm going to use the nav HTML tag, and we'll put the burger in a little bit later. Most navs are just the unordered list, right? So we're going to start with that. And excuse my typing, for some reason I'm not typing very well right now, but that's okay. We're just going to have 4 list items, and of course once you actually hook this up, you'll have the anchor, hrefs and stuff in here. For the sake of time right now, I'm just going to put these in. So let's do project, media, let's do projects, media, and contact, just like it's going to be on a portfolio page or something. Okay, so there's my nav. Really simple, just the nav tag and the unordered lists. Okay, now let's look at some styling. Okay, so for the nav, I want it to stay over here, but I'm not going to worry about positioning quite yet because I want you to see what the entire div looks like. And I can hear one of the jet planes. I live next to an Air Force base, so forgive the jet planes as they go overhead. It might get a little bit loud for a couple seconds. So I'm going to come down to my CSS, and I am going to give a width. Let me select it first. That would be good. Let's take my nav element. We're going to do a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 100 viewport width, and then let's give it the box shadow so that you can see what this div looks like. 2 pixel by 2 pixel, or the XY or 2 pixel, and then the 15 pixel spread, and we'll just give it a gray color. And then you can see it right here, right? But I said I wanted it to be a disk. So let's go ahead and put in a border radius of 50%. So as long as you have a perfect square div and you put in 50%, you're going to get your circle. Okay. So there is my disk. It is large. I don't want it to be that big. So let's give it, I do want it to be responsive though. So let's go ahead and do some mins and some maxes here. Let's do a min width of 500 pixels and a max width of 1000 pixels. And we'll do the same thing for the height. Okay, so that's a little bit more manageable, especially if we're shoving it way up here and we're just seeing a quarter of it at a time. but we can play with that more if we need to a little bit later. All right, so there is our disk. Now you'll notice our list is technically within the div, right? But it's pushed out here. So if all we're seeing is a quadrant of the disk, say this bottom right-hand side, I'm not gonna see my list. So I need to shove this down where it's visible. So what I wanna do is I want it to be in this lower right-hand quadrant. I'm gonna split the circle up into 4 parts. And I'm gonna do that by setting a 50% width and height on the actual UL within the nav element, okay? All right, so my nav UL, first of all, let's just take care of this list style. We're not gonna have it be bullet points. We're also gonna get rid of the padding, and I don't remember if there's automatic margin on it. Yeah, it looks like there is. So we'll take the padding and the margin off, and then we're going to give it the width of 50%, height of 50%, and then just so you can see it, border 2 pixels, solid, black. Okay, so you can see there, it's this quadrant of the div, but I want it to be down here. So I'm going to come back up to my nav, and I'm going to make it display flex. So display flex, I want to align the content, which is just that UL, to the flex end. So you can see it come down. Sorry, align items. There, so you see it shift down. We're halfway there, but I want it over here. So I'm going to do my justify content, flex end. All right, now, so this is going to be my visible part of the disk, but I still don't want this hugging up here because I'm going to have a burger up here. And even if I didn't have the burger, I wouldn't want this just up flat against the side of the viewport, right? So I'm going to go to my nav UL again, and I'm going to transform it just slightly on the X and the Y axis. Negative 50%, negative 50%. And I actually applied that to the wrong thing. Or did I? Yes, I did. Okay, let me just look at my notes and see what I'm doing here. Oh, that was the wrong one. Okay, so we're going to do 20%, 20%. There we go. Okay, now we can see it's shoved down just a little bit. Okay, so let me get rid of this border. And you can see it's taking up that bottom quadrant, and it's pushed down a little bit, so there's room for a burger right here. All right, so now, like I said, I don't want this entire div visible. I want it pushed up here, and I want it to remain up at this top left side. So first I'm going to come in, and I'm going to go to the body element, and I'm going to say position relative so that it has some kind of explicit positioning for it. While I'm here, why don't I take care of the padding and the margin that is typically on body as well. Your CSS reset will do that for you if you're using that, but I'm not right here, so I'm just explicitly saying it. And while I'm up here, just another housekeeping note, I'm going to put in, for each element, I'm going to select it and I'm going to say box sizing is border box. This is an awesome tool because what it does is if your div is 1,000 pixels, border box is going to say no matter what, it's 1,000 pixels. So I don't care what you do for padding inside of it, what your border size is. When all is said and done, this element is going to be 500 pixels. You don't have to do any of the math to figure out the additions of the padding and all that stuff. So box sizing, border box, and then body, we've got position relative and the padding taken care of. Okay, so now we can push this up. So let's go to our nav, that's our big div, and we're going to give it a position of absolute. And then we're going to say left 0, top 0. And then we're going to transform this one too, just so we get that bottom right quadrant. So transform, translate. Here's where my negative 50% were. Sorry about that. And we should see it pop over. Perfect. Okay, so it popped up and over, and we can just see that bottom right quadrant. It's responsive, but we've got, did I put the max on it? Oh, the max isn't working quite right. Let's take a look at that. Oh, because I did width instead of height. Let's fix that, huh? As I'm typing that, you're probably like, that's going to be an issue. Okay, there we go. So there's our min, there's our max. We can play around with this. And we've got room for the burger. Awesome. Now, the other thing I said at the beginning was I want this to be a spinning disc. So once it pops up, this is what it's going to look like. But if I want to collapse it, I want it to spin this way, and I want this border shadow to go away so that it looks like it's collapsing down into the page. So let's go ahead and create a class, and this is going to be our hide class. And all we're going to do is we're going to transform it by translating it again, the 50%, 50%. And we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. Okay, and then we're going to take care of the box shadow. We're going to make it transform or dissolve into white. So 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 15 pixel spread with the white. Now let's add that to our nav class and see what happens. Alright, so it looks like it disappeared. Whether we got the movement or not, we didn't see, because if you add the class here, it's going to re-render the whole page based on that. So let's go ahead and write some JavaScript to toggle that and see if it's actually working. So I'm just going to create a function called toggle nav. And I'm going to grab the nav, document query selector, nav. Oops. I'm going to go to the class list and I'm going to toggle the class hide. All right. And then I don't have anywhere to put that right now. It will be on the burger. So let's go ahead and create the burger. Let's do that up here. And I'm not going to import an icon right now. I'm just going to use it with divs. This isn't really the accessible way to do it, so don't do this in production. Figure out your button with your icon or what you want to do there. But while I'm designing, I like to use a parent div and then a child div so that I have more control over what the lines look like for my burger. So I'm going to do div id nav burger. It doesn't need a class right now. We are going to give it the onClick of toggle nav. Okay, so that's our parent div. And then within it, we're going to create a child div. And that's going to be our middle line for the burger. So let's just make this show up. All right. So let's come down here. We are going to do, where's my styles I had for this? There we go. Okay, so our nav burger. First of all, I defined it before the nav class, and this is going to be a absolute positioning as well. So that creates an issue, and let me show it to you here. If I do position absolute top 0, left 0. And let's push it out from the side just a little bit. So we'll do top 1em, left 1em. And then let's give it some width and height just so you can see it. And then we'll talk about the issue that I've created for us here. Let's give the width a little bit bigger than the height so that it's stretched out a bit. And then we'll do a border top 1 pixel solid black, border bottom 1 pixel solid black. Let's give it a cursor of pointer so that you know that it's clickable. Okay. Border bot. Let's fix that. Border bottom. Okay, so there are my top and my bottom lines. And you can see as I'm hovering over it, I'm not getting my cursor pointer. And that is because I've defined it up here. So this is covering it up. So I'm going to give it a z index of 1 just to pull it up over. All right, there it is. So now I can actually click on this thing, even though the burger isn't done yet. I can click on it and see if it activates, and it does. It toggles there. I'm not getting the movement though because I haven't set the transition on my nav. So our transition on the nav is going to be transition, transform, let's do 0.7 seconds, and we'll just ease it in. And then we also want the box shadow, and let's do that 0.5 seconds, ease in, out, and give it a delay of 0.2 seconds. So the overall animation is the same as the 0.7. It just gives kind of a collapsing look to it. Okay, let's see if that works. Yeah, so we've got our spin and we've got our collapse down, and then it spins in and it looks like it's raised up a little bit. Okay, so we've got our basic animation. Let's finish up this nav burger really quick. So you see I've got this div in the middle here. I'm just going to give that a border so that you can see it. Nav burger div. I'm going to say border of 0.5 pixel. You could just say the top or the bottom, but I'm going to put the full border at half of the width of the other one. Okay, and you can see that this just got bolder because this div is up at the top. So we want to come back to our actual burger and we want to say display, flex, and then you can see it move as we're adjusting this. We want to align items, center, and then justify content, center. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Hold on just a second. What did I do? Nav burger, nav burger, nav burger. Justify, yeah, display, solid black. I don't know what I did. Oh, I didn't set a width. Maybe that's it. Let's set a width on this of 80%. Hey, there it is. All right. Now with the width, I like setting it smaller than the actual width of the parent div, just because it gives it a bit of a more unique look. You could go bigger if you wanted. That seems to be a trend right now in the nav burgers, but I like the smaller one. So there's our nav burger, and look at that. Now one thing I think would be cool is if this spun in the opposite direction. You know how sometimes with the gears set up on the inside, if you spin this one way, then it's going to spin this the other way. So let's maybe do something like that. So let's create another class. And that class, we'll call it twist. Okay, and all it's going to do is do a transform, rotate. And we're going to rotate it a lot. 630 degrees. Okay. And you'll see the ending of this twist is going to be vertical instead of horizontal. See that? So when this is open, it's going to be vertical, showing that it's open. And then when we click it again, it's going to go horizontal and show that it's closed. So let's add that down here at the bottom. Document query selector. I cannot type today. Don't know what's up. Okay, we're going to grab the nav burger and we're going to toggle on the class list there too. Toggle. Twist. And it's not going to show us the animation yet because we haven't set a transition on the nav burger. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do a transition of transform. Am I transforming? What am I doing? Yes, I am. Okay. So let's do transform. We'll give it the same duration as the other twist. And we'll do an ease in. Alright. Let's see what happens here. If I click on this, I'm expecting this to spin really fast. And this to spin slow. Alright. Look at that. Now you can play around with it. You can make this sharper. You can make it look like it's really, really rising up. You can play around with the font here. One that I really like for navigation, don't judge me, is called Poppins. So there's the Google API for that, and then I'll come down and say font family Poppins. Okay. And look at that. Just a nice, clean, unobtrusive navigation, but it's unique. And it doesn't break any of the conventions that a typical user would have. And it's responsive. So even if we get to a smaller screen, a little cell phone screen, it's still going to work just fine. All right, that is my navigation exploration for the day. I hope it helped. I hope it inspired. I can't think of anything else. I hope it did everything for you. Hi everybody, thanks for checking out John Mead Web Dev on YouTube, and make sure that you click the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of my videos.